but they felt like I mean, like not, you know, not Guns N' Roses-y rock stars, not like, you know, Nirvana-y rock stars. They were like people we knew in bands, not people other people knew, and certainly not people Susan Sarandon would know about. Like, what is happening? Like, it just seemed crazy that there would be any. It seemed like things from two different worlds.
Hello, everyone. Hola, mis amigos. You're listening to Oh My God, Hi, Hijo de Dios, Hola. With me, George Lopez, porque ¿sabes qué? Let's do the show, porque I got a lot of things to do. I gotta go to that dry cleaner ahí. My kid fell, se pegó la cabeza. I gotta go get some Neosporin Paul.
You know what George is?
Oh, I'm sure he's around here somewhere.
What's his name?
George Lopez. George Lopez.
Oh my God!
OMG.
OMG! Hi!
Oh my God, hi!
This holiday season, I'm giving thanks to our friends at Manscaped. Do I tell my extended family that I have the Performance Package 4.0 from the global leaders in below-the-waist grooming? Not to mention it includes their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer to tame my bush and score brownie points with the in-laws. Get yourself Manscaped for the man in your life who needs it.
Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with 20% off and free shipping with this code OMGHI by going to manscaped.com. Not only will I thank you, but I can speak for your huevos, and they're going to thank you as well.
Be thankful this holiday season for the best gift of all from Manscaped. The balls will thank you.
Are you the left ball or the right ball?
Both balls.
You know what? Is there real life anymore? You know what? I'm going to say that there is. You know, there's portions of our life that aren't real. When people are holding phones up at, you know, Gene Simmons, I'm a big rock guy. First concert, Kiss.
All right.
Last concert was, pandemic. First concert, Kiss. I've seen everybody.
Definitely Kiss.
But, you know, they come down on those platforms and Gene Simmons almost like ate it. And it's, everybody had it on their phone. As the camera that films all their shows, you see 1,000 people all capturing it on a camera. And, you know, it loses its impact of you watching a car accident of like not being involved. I think Bobcat Goldthwait said about the Rodney King video at the first comic release, or one of the comic release, like, put that fucking camera down and help me. So early.
It was like the first, we're all witnessing everything through this like second lens all the time of, it's crazy. So maybe real life already ceased to exist before COVID, but it's extra that way now. You know,
I don't know how you spend your days, but you know, I used to see somebody that from the time they woke up were on their phone, checking their Facebook. I guess like people read the paper, but it just seems more disconnected when somebody's just looking at a phone as opposed to, I mean, I'm old, but if you saw somebody reading the paper, you didn't want to bother them because they were reading the paper. But now when
that's so true, that there's like this sort of respect for where your attention is that we used to have that now is just like completely over. It's like if you're on your phone, then you're supposed to also be having a conversation with someone and like driving your car. You know, like you'll see people in New York all the time, like smack into each other, you know, like walking down the street with the thing out and then just wham, like crash into someone else. And it's like not even weird. Nobody's embarrassed. It's like, oh, sorry. And then you just move right along.
There was
engaged in your matrix.
There was a woman, we went to Vaughn's one night, and this guy Alex I used to drive me, and there was a girl that had the cupping marks on her back. You know, from doing cupping, they leave bruises. And I said, does that work? Cupping? And she looks at me, she goes, don't talk to me, please. Can I just shop? Don't talk to me. Okay.
How dare you?
And you know, the Chicano
conversation.
The Chicano in me said, well, don't be walking around with fucking cup marks on your back. I don't know. I just think it's just that reaction, but maybe it wasn't my business to say, does that work? Like I'm invading, you know, what do we do? Excuse me, can I ask you a question? No. Okay. But
I think it's a bit of an advertisement to have a conversation if you're walking, or as someone who has done cupping before, like there's such a thing as a sweater. you know? So
Yes.
if you really don't want anyone to ask you any questions about the massive bruises on your back, you could certainly do something about that. You know, it's like celebrities that go to really paparazzi'd restaurants and then complain about being bothered by paparazzi. I mean, there's a little bit of a kind of invitation to talk to me element. That's my thesis.
You know, well, listen, I'm not saying this, but I used to go to school with bruises on my back almost every week, and I would take my shirt off in front of the teachers, and none of them said a word. So God bless them over there in San Fernando Elementary School, keeping my hidden punishment.
A cupping pioneer.
So right now, that wasn't cupping. No, but yeah, you know, I find music fascinating, and I'm an only child, and I didn't really wasn't musical. You know, I've been trying to play the guitar forever, but music, you know, it has a play in Vietnam. Gil went to Vietnam. So much of the music of the movies of war movies are the music of Vietnam.
Sure.
Apocalypse Now, and you know, Lawrence Fishburne, I think he was 13, and he's on the gunboat, and they're playing Sympathy for the Devil or something, and it's just everything kind of puts the music in the place of your life, even, you know, things that you can go to and remember seeing. When I was in New York, there was a place called the Crime Scene across the street from CBGB's, and when I got out of the cab, the guy said, I said, hey, man, that's CBGB's. And he was like, yeah, they're getting ready to turn it into a Barbados. And I said, get the fuck out of here. No, they're not. And he goes, yeah, Hilly's in there. And I said, oh, shit. I said, you never been in there? I went in there, and Hilly was there. And it's true, you know, he couldn't get Hilly away from me, but he wanted me to help him not turn into Barbados. I said, hey, I don't know if I have that. You know, I'm just on ABC at that time. But to go in there and to see where all of these bands started, you know, Blondie and Lou Reed and the Ramones and to see. Is that
your music? Like, is that stuff that means something to you? Soundtrack of your lifestyle?
Not, you know, I would say not entirely, but the range is so broad that it did mean something to, you know, if I went to London, I would probably go to the is it called the Caravan or the thing wherever the down below place where the Beatles
Cavern Club.
The Cavern Club,
for the Beatles, yeah.
Yeah. So I think and Gil's got his oldies, you know, he
That's all I listen to.
Yeah, that's all he listens to.
What do you listen to, Gil? What's your stuff?
I like music from the 60s, early 70s.
But don't say.
And 50s.
40s.
What's your cutoff? What's like the cutoff band where you're like, no more, that's as far as we go into music history?
There's the Tower of Power I picked up later. Tower of Power wasn't oldies, but they've been around a long time. They play a lot of R&B stuff. So I love Tower of Power, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'll go with them. Santana, his stuff. And then I'm back to
Orale, fucking
Tierra.
Predictable Pete. Tierra. We take a 25-year jump into Tierra. What about Sly and the Family Stone out of the Bay Area?
Sly and the Family Stones. They were big when I was in Vietnam. They were big.
You know how great Sly and the Family Stone, like the Clash.
Everyday people.
If you look at dun, 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 there's no guitar chord manual for it's like if you can't play the guitar, don't because there is no chord. It's just it's just that little.
People.
And Rock the Casbah. If you look up how to play Rock the Casbah, the dude's like, I think it's kind of like this. They don't have a guitar.
They're like, we don't know how to play this.
And
it's
just so kind of simple, but you know, Blitzkrieg Bop, three little places, and I mean, an immortal, iconic.
Love Blitzkrieg
song, yes. So let's get into.
You know that it's like that thing too, where it's innovation can be so simple. I mean, I think the best music that we care about, you just named a lot of it. It's like I always say this as a music critic and someone who's written about music for a long time. It's like I know there's something good. It's something new that I'm hearing that's good if it feels familiar. Like if there's a part of me that's like, hang on, have I heard this before in some way? And not in a bad way, like it's repetitive, but more like it's already feels like part of music history. There's a sort of obviousness to it. And I think people are really, there's often this desire to overcomplicate art in a lot of ways, but like music is the ultimate level for that. Cause you're just like, does it sound good or not? Does it make me feel something or not? It's like not intellectual in that way. And it can be very simple, deceptively simple to your point,
I really
how are we even playing these songs? Nobody knows.
really didn't appreciate when I was younger, the Beatles, the Beach Boys. I didn't like to hear them at all. Now I understand music and I love their music. They were so complicated. It was so good, so well put together. They were genius.
Yeah.
Imagine when you would go to a Hard Rock Cafe or go to a museum or go to some place where collectors and they had Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds written on a notebook pad, or Purple Haze that Jimi Hendrix wrote out himself and crossed out different words and put words in there, and that's what we had. We won't have that anymore. Nobody.
Yeah.
Which
screenshots of like a notes app on your iPhone.
Totally.
Doesn't really have the same romance to it, does it? I guess you could like print it out and frame it or something.
So where does your love of music come from, and then where does the love of finding the history of it and finding the people of it come from? And
before you answer, should I do the intro here?
I mean, yeah.
Introduce.
You know what? I had a bunch of shows, and a lot of the bullshit was intros and stuff, but. Yeah, why don't you just spoil the moment? Yeah, I guess we probably should.
For the listeners. So today on the podcast joining us is Lizzy Goodman. She is an author. She's a rock and roll journalist. Author of the book Meet Me in the Bathroom, which is an oral history of music in New York from 2001 to 2011. And I'm just reading a blurb here, so tell me if this is true. Also have an upcoming memoir called All My Friends, Love, Loss, and Rock and Roll in New York City.
I love that.
I mean, if I end up writing it, that will be true. It's really easy to say it's true when you haven't written it yet. So let's go with that. But yes, that's me. Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Yeah, thank you. And now we're all like, we lost our pedals on our bike. We're trying to get our pedals back.
Just jump back into the stream of things.
But I find you, and I think Gil will too, very interesting, because it's something that I think as we reach back to something that 2001 to 2010 even doesn't seem like a long time, but a lot has changed in that time.
No, it's crazy. Yeah.
Who loved really music in your family?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Who loved music in your family? Did everybody?
Yeah, I was just gonna say everything you guys are saying about the music you grew up on. I mean, I think one of the funniest things, I was just talking to my parents about this because I recently moved home. I'm from New Mexico originally, and now I'm living back here I lived in New York for a long time, obviously, and I also lived in LA for a bit, and now I'm back in New Mexico, and it's great. And I've been talking to my parents, they live here still, so I'm seeing them a lot more. And I was saying to my dad the other day, I was like, okay, because he was a big music guy growing up, and he did a radio show on the local, like, kind of public radio station, and it was often, he's your dad, so you're just like, oh, dad music. Like, he was really into folk music and all this stuff that my brother and I weren't into, but there was a lot of good music around the house too. The Beatles, Rolling Stones, Dylan, all that. And hilariously, they missed all of the 70s. My parents, it was all 50s and 60s music. There was no 70s music. There was like a couple of Dylan 80s albums, which is, not a key moment for Dylan in a lot of ways. And then, but randomly, they were into the Talking Heads.
Okay.
And I said to my dad at dinner the other night, I was just like, seriously, now that I understand the sort of context of music history, where the fuck did that come from? Like, how did you end up being interested in, it was like, folky Dylan records and then burning down the house. So, right. And his answer was Stop Making Sense, and the sort of film work that had been done, that David Byrne had done. Kind of, they saw those movies randomly, and that got them interested in the Talking Heads, and so they bought those records, or maybe one Talking Heads record, and not even their best, and that was also cycled into the rotation of the Goodman family listening world. So, but that's it's an example of how music is so personal that way, right? Like, if you're studying it, you start in one place, you kind of dutifully investigate all this stuff, but that's not really how we consume music. It's so visceral and so much a part of our lived experience. Like, you hear a song on the radio in a moment in your life that matters, and that becomes important to you. Or your dad plays something and it all feels part of the same box in your head. Like, for me growing up, the Beatles and the Talking Heads were just that was dad music. They were the same. You know, it's like crazy. So
It all comes around.
that's
You
my
know,
story.
I needed a fine arts class to get my bachelor's. And so I took music appreciation.
That's from a guy who's just trying to get out of school. I needed a class.
I needed to find
Not that he wanted to
I didn't want
learn
to take
anything.
it. But I took music appreciation. And this very elderly professor was up there talking to us about music appreciation. And she was going to play some of the first written music in history. And she started playing it, and I started laughing. I started chuckling. I did. And she stopped the music. She said, "Excuse me, Mr. Creo, is something funny about the music we're playing?" I said, "No." But I finally realized this was music that they play when the Pope is being elected. It's Gregorian chant. Now there's a name put to it. And I thought this was funny. It was all bringing it back. And she says, "Oh, well, I applied. That's good. You're right. This is Gregorian chant now that you've said." And everything went well. So it does bring back. And I
Right, and
wasn't
then
just
there's,
looking
like, a
for an easy
name.
class.
You learned something that first day. But
I took for my science requirement in college, I took astronomy because I was like, I think this is a very common trying to get out of science mistake that people make. Astronomy is so hard. It's just 100% math. I was like, we're going to go look at the stars and like, there's going to be, you know, I don't know, it'll be this sort of romantic experience. And really it was just equations all day long. And I was like, oh no, how am I going to get out of this?
you know, you would look up
But
to the
yours
sky
turned out much
you
better.
would look up to the sky for solace, not for fucking mathematics
I know.
and equations
Literally.
that you can't figure out. And the Galileo and the stars are always the same, and they can lead you and pull you out of things that.
I just don't look up.
You are teaching, you are beginning to teach the class I was expecting. And unfortunately, that's not what I found. I wanted all the stuff you just said. But,
You know what? I was around when the
it's
motherfucker used to use a sundial at the park. At Mission Hills, at Brand Park, they had a sundial, and you walk up there and go, "Fuck, I gotta get going, man. I got practice at 5:30."
Now I have a burning question. What part of New Mexico are you from?
I'm from
How's that a
Albuquerque,
burning question?
just outside of Albuquerque.
Outside of
Yeah.
Albuquerque? Mm-hmm. My relatives are all from Gallup. I used to go there every year. I'll be back there soon. And once they get socialized, then they move from Gallup to Albuquerque.
You know, there's always an
Yeah, it's a
insult
bit
in
of
there
a
with you.
graduation.
I think they're getting fostered.
That's crazy. So you know wow, yeah.
Oh, yes, I do very well.
It's the New Mexico thing is special and weird, and only people who've really spent time here. Most of the time you hear, then if you have family here, you know, it's like people will just be like, "Yeah, I drove through there once."
Yeah.
You know, I'll hear that a lot.
Okay, here's
It's
the
like,
question.
Yes, that's where I'm from.
Did you
I'm
take
from where
any
you
dirt?
drove.
Did you take any dirt with you when you went to New York? You know, they think it's magical dirt out there. In Chamayo, they
Honestly, yes.
Yeah.
I used to get told by my ex, he would be like, back in New York, in the sort of era that the book I wrote covers, I guess if I was just getting too annoying or something, he would just too stressed, he would be like, "You need to go home. It's time for you to go do whatever it is you do there. Like, talk to the dirt, commune with the whatever. Like, it's enough. I can't deal with you. Get on a plane. When you come back, we'll be able to have this conversation." It's sort of a dirt cleansing from the magical land here. But no, it's beautiful and cool. And I don't know, it's like a good place to be creative. I was going to actually ask you, George, like, what's your day? You said earlier, you know, you don't know how do I spend my days and newspaper reading and all these things we used to do. What do you do first thing in the morning? Like, what's your routine?
Yes, George, very good question.
No, listen, I think, you know, stop making sense. I think all those documentaries, you know, when documentaries are maybe, and books on tape and everything now, are what people enjoy, you know, when they walk, the podcasts now, you know, and things like that. But it's funny because I'm a music person on YouTube and a real crime person. So Gil, even though his last, I think one of Tierras Together was the last song
That's it.
he listened to. But a lot of Latino, a lot of Chicano singers. So I like that, but also I like the crime aspect of true crime. I don't know. I was not a criminal growing up. I knew guys that were, and they were so casual about. One of my friends was.
Really?
The statute of limitations on murder. I might be telling the wrong person.
I don't think there's no statute of limitations on murder.
But a gentleman that I heard
So
of
do go on. Tell us more.
said, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of gravitated to the things that I was afraid of. Been trying to play the guitar forever. I grew up, idolizing these guys. Most of the guys I grew up idolizing, I'm friends with in a crazy way. But also crime and documentaries and those things. It's funny, Gil's a detective. Like when I was a kid, I used to Dragnet and to San Francisco, and I thought about, every kid dreams about being somebody. I'd have been a detective. I would have liked to have been a detective.
Do you like asking people questions? I mean, clearly you're hosting a podcast, so yes. But, there's that, like, being inquisitive about other people's lives. And that can go, and I'm obsessed with true crime, too. And also just, like, thriller, like Elmore Leonard or any sort of all those, like, noir detective fiction stuff, because I think it's really related to the idea of, for me, I'm a journalist, of just being honestly kind of nosy as a personality type, like
completely
just wanting to know stuff about
I had
people.
no idea how much I had no idea how much people were into true crime because I did that for a living until this last year. I went up to Austin to a crime con. I was a speaker up there, and people from all walks of life up there, especially these people that are following crimes now. They want to solve them. They want to do this, and they're very enthusiastic about it. And I was really surprised, being on the podcast, of how knowledgeable George is on a lot of these old major crimes, serial killers. Especially.
It's incredible.
He fascinates me. Yeah.
This is your secret. Look, he's smiling.
It's just that
that's a proud moment.
I have such a lonely life. I just enjoy other people taking the initiative. No, I mean.
Taking the initiative.
but I do, I'm not as public as I don't know. I just think that's how things find you. You find things that, if it wasn't for this damn Apple TV, the minute I have Apple TV, I stopped really engaging with people. I mean, isn't that the beginning of the end? Like I became a Buddhist. They were always around me. I could have lived with just saying, oh, those dudes, I grew up around those guys. Instead of seeing a documentary on the Dalai Lama and then going to Boston and then meeting him and then all of a sudden now. But up until 2007, I was just happy with saying, oh, monks, yeah, I grew up in every kind of place I lived near had monks around. Never thought it was a sign. But
now
it's made me a different person. Now I don't want to be harmful to other people. I just watch other people who are harmful.
It's a vicarious, methadone system.
The two things that survive, Oxygen, the channel, it has Oxygen True Crime Channel. The Learning Channel, which nobody wanted to watch, put fucking shelves together, has become like a crime, the Learning Channel, and everything is taking crime. But also, what's great about, and Mayan, of course, introduced me to YouTube, is every aspect and dimension and look at rock music is explored and music explored. They'll say, Dee Dee Ramone's last interview, and you're like, oh, Dee Dee Ramone's last interview. I wouldn't have found that anywhere else. So I'm not sure that people that are younger than us will ever appreciate the music that we listen to, nor do I think it's fair to say that the music that is being created right now we'll never really have a dialogue about. I think, But
that's how it's supposed to be, right? I mean, there is this whole argument that it's definitely different in a post-internet world. I'm not saying it's not. Obviously, it would be a really stupid argument to make that claim. But it's also always been true that you don't understand, for the most part, the next generation's music in the same way you understand your own, and vice versa. And like your parents or people slightly older than you aren't supposed to. It's not that like period of youth where you're discovering your stuff. It's so personal and specific. And there's also all these like brain development things we understand now about what's happening to your mind when you're in your 20s and how it's not fully formed yet. And so the music that gets in during that time does literally have a different impact on someone who's 20 or 21, 22 than it does on someone who's 30, 31, 32. So it's like stage of life. And also all that stuff is, I guess I think, so much has changed and also so little has changed, because I still don't. Yeah. I mean, now I'm like, I follow what people are listening to, what young people are listening to, just because I want to know. But it's different. It's like, I'm old now. I have no idea why they care about what they care about. But I like to learn, but I don't feel it in the same way.
Is that true that we get trapped in like whatever hair you had in high school, do you have now? You heard that? Like, you see people that. Yeah. I mean, listen. I've had a few moments where my eyes were open. I was at the Hollywood Bowl watching The Who on this last kind of tour a couple years ago, and there was a guy sitting next to me with a Who's Next t-shirt with some puka shells and some stonewashed jeans, and about my age with the same hair. And I looked her over and I said, other than this cool ass top that I got at Barney's in New York, I'm fucking just like this dude. Like, we're living in the past. Like, I don't think I'm living in the past, but I think we are. I think we are a bit nostalgic for those things.
Totally.
Nostalgia is its own thing, and I think everyone feels it. And now in our like warped hyper speed culture that we're in now, it's like it's more of that and more marketed. We're like buying nostalgia more. We're being sold it. Oh, yeah. But I don't know. I don't think maybe I'm just like naive, but I don't think I sort of don't worry about this. Like, I worry about plenty of things, but okay. So you're not living in the past. You're just enjoying your connection to something that you loved when you were young, and, enjoying the shared fashion sense that you guys have carried on bravely into the new world of whatever year we're in.
Just enjoying life.
Yeah, enjoying
the puka
life.
shell abides.
What about when you forget music? Like, my grandmother hated music. She hated everything that I did.
Really?
All of the, I have to say, yeah, but also I have to say, in her defense, all of the people that I followed, Richard Pryor lit himself on fire. Freddie Prinze killed himself. And Bill Cosby, we all know that. My grandma was alive. She would say, hey, what about your heroes, cabrón? Who? Bill Cosby. He's not my hero. Oh, he's not. I mean, everybody that I admired has fallen by the wayside.
So in her defense, you're like, maybe she was onto something? The track record. Ruh-roh.
Man, she hated me watching Soul Train. She hated American Bastard. So she just hated music, I think. Which I don't know how some people can, if somebody can hate music, they got a black heart, man. I mean,
and I went to go see the Temptations 3 nights in a row.
You did? When was that?
This is back in the late 70s.
At?
Oh, I saw him at the Greek Theater. I saw him at maybe Universal Amphitheater. Yep. It was three days in a row I went to see him with.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous.
3 different. One of them was Pearl, and the other 2 were not.
3 different bands.
Yeah, it was fun.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
A band was just at the Hollywood Palladium, and they sold it out, and they were jamming, and it made me feel good that bands were back in, and that the Hollywood Palladium was still a great venue to see. I don't think it's rock music, but music. It was music.
They're still.
Yeah, I mean, what's the last show anyone's seen? That's also obviously the industry has been like pretty roughed up by COVID because but it's starting again.
I went to go see the Temptations just before COVID struck. There were only 2 of the originals left, but I went to go see them in La Mirada, and they're going to be. What's left of them now is going to be performing out here in L.A. County.
Steven's Steakhouse.
No. Think your holiday spread is good? It's time to give thanks to the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0, or as I like to call it, the perfect package for your package. What? Inside, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose trimmer, Crop Preserver, Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver, Toner, Performance Boxer Briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. Think of it as a cornucopia for your balls. Does it ever stop?
That's the wild thing about it.
Yeah.
Can't forget Manscaped's liquid formations. They're like pumpkin pie and ice cream after Thanksgiving dinner. You can't live without it. The Crop Preserver, Ball Deodorant, and Crop Reviver Toner Spray. Your balls will be living in turkey heaven with these formulations. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with 20% off and free shipping with this code OMGHI by going to Manscaped.com. I'm already seeing huevos like in the clouds floating around.
That's it. You see them. They're
I
up
can
there
see them up there.
with little wings on them.
Remember guys' balls used to look like the back of a TV, all wires coming out different. Okay, now let's get into the book because I think I'm gonna know.
I'm gonna have to buy it on tape.
little bit.
It's on tape too.
I bought it
God.
on audio
Yes,
because that's
you
what I
can
do.
it.
I bought it on audio.
Okay.
Do you read the audiobook?
I just want to say in advance, no, I don't read it, and
It's impossible to read.
I mean, no offense to the readers, but let's just say that it's one of the things that I think we could have done better.
Oh.
Because so the book is told, it's an oral history. So it's all told in other people's voices. So it's like reading a script. There's like 200 characters in it. So there's one female voice actor that they hired, and then one male voice actor that they hired.
Right.
And you know
It's a little bit of a rough sell that way.
And you know what, they do that. I listen to enough books on tape. I listen to the Michael Jackson, be careful who you love. And whenever they get to his part, they always say, you want to know how do I deal with my family? And it's the same guy.
Yeah.
And Michael came into the room and said, you see, they're trying to kill me. It's the same dude. So yeah, we get that. But
Yeah, you know.
yeah, all right. But that's why I think this is going to be.
This is like, you can tell I'm a terrible saleswoman for my own work. I'm like, please, I like enjoy the audiobook. If you like it, I will be thrilled. If you like any part of anything I've ever written, that is always the ultimate goal and thrill. So,
well, I'm going to read the book then. I'm going to read the book.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I'm getting it on audio. I'm a terrible reader. I've never even read the book on the Night Stalker case.
That's because you wrote the book on the Night Stalker
it,
case.
And you
I was
copied
going to
it.
say, is that maybe?
You think Willie May sat around reading about himself? I think he probably did.
Maybe.
I was thinking about the Zodiac stuff too that just came out. That they're like,
yeah. I wish I were involved.
crazy.
He's not still alive, is he?
I mean,
What is the latest there?
Give us the latest.
well, I as an expert, obviously, as an insider to the solving of the case. I mean, my expertise on the Zodiac killing is limited to my obsession with the film. Like, I think the David Fincher film is so amazing. And I think it's also because it's really hard as a sort of storyteller to get, to get an audience to be psyched on a story that never gets solved is crazy. Like, you can't, that's not how Hollywood works. Like, you're not allowed to not solve it. Like, what are you talking about? And I think that just the way that he was able to sort of tease out the quiet drama of why we obsess over these things. Like, it's really a film about obsession, which is what true crime is. Like, when for me at least, like, as a consumer of true crime, it's like, well, what I'm into is this sort of place to put my obsessive tendencies. Like, the obsession element is like really what's satisfying about it. But yeah. I don't know that much about the recent break in the case, except that they think they think they've solved it. That's what I understand.
It's not the first time they thought they've solved it, and there's
But let's go back to the early 70s when this was all happening, kind of on those roads out by the lake where people used to go. And I mean, you did, I did, and you had people walk up. I had people walk up to cars and go around and stuff, places that were like, isolated out of the way, like what happened here. But to think of the mentality of somebody who writes in code and who has a bucket hat, kind of with the scope on his face and the whole thing on the chest, it is. If it wasn't a movie and you saw it for the first time, you'd be like, wow, that's some chilling shit, like Silence of the Lambs.
Totally.
But this guy was doing that in real life. That was his MO.
It reminded me of the BTK guy that was doing it using computers to tease the cops and writing the newspaper and killing and torturing his victims. And he did it, and then he went dormant, and now is getting ready to start again before they caught him.
Right.
Oh.
What did they say? Did you catch him?
So I was looking it up, and it says that
Do you believe he was a police officer? Do you believe he was a police officer?
I mean, I want to find that hard to believe, but I believe that, there's that whole, like, now we live in a CSI world. Like, he's obviously someone who had a lot of knowledge about how cops work and what our like investigative techniques are. So, it was harder then, is what I'm saying, to get all that information. You had to like check out books from the library, and they would there's that famous scene where they know who's reading what books because of your library card and all this stuff that feels like very, honestly, like quaint now, because it's just like, hi, we live in a Google world. Like, you're like, how do you make a bomb? No problem. You just find out immediately. But there was like, so I don't know. I mean, of course that's possible, but I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of people. DNA closed the book on a lot of the Golden State Killer.
Yeah.
And plus the Golden State Killer, he was a cop at one time. So there's precedent to say that cops are not eliminated from being killers, being sociopaths, and he did have some inside knowledge. Either he had friends that did an awful lot of studying, or he was.
You know what? I knew some girls that, I don't know if you knew any girls that dated cops. I'm not saying you've been married over 50 years,
Yes.
but there was a girl that was Filipino. I used to work during the day in Northridge, and she was a Filipino girl. She was beautiful, and she had an accent, and she was dating the guy from LAPD. His name was, I shouldn't even say their name. I'm saying their real names. His name was Ron. And she used to torture
Ron.
this dude.
I know
His
that
name was
guy.
Rick. And she would make this guy cry, man. Like she would make this dude start crying. And you'd see, like, Rick, what the you crying, dude? You're a cop. I said, you got a uniform on. It's just,
wait, cry? Why? Like
just out of his
she
emotion.
was, like, so hardcore?
Yeah. Like he loved her, and she was a little bit of, out there. And he couldn't take it, and he said, "You want me to make Rick cry?" I said, "No, don't make Rick." And he'd come and he'd be crying. 2 minutes later, he'd be crying, like going out with my friends. And she would go, "You think guys are gonna like these?" And
Oh my gosh,
man, it's awful, man.
Sounds like a good thing.
That's early '80s in Northridge. That was around that time.
I think I knew her.
Well, cops can. I was gonna say. Does it sound familiar? No, I mean, listen, cops can cry, but it sounds like she was, kind of mean. Meanness knows no bounds, I guess. I have never dated a cop. Or, I mean, no, I really haven't. I was going to say, or a firefighter, I recently was remembering this party that I had gone to back in New York where it was like the sort of firefighter fleet week. So somehow, I don't remember how I was connected to this, but like a friend of mine was like, this is the weekend where all the firehouses or whatever have their new recruits events, and we're going to go like troll these bars and like meet cute firefighter guys. And I was like, New York is the greatest town on earth. Like, how is this possible? It's very early in my tenure there. So I guess that's as close as I've ever come to, fulfilling that fantasy. But I guess if life is not over yet. We'll see.
No,
we'll see if I can nice cop.
There's still time. There's still time.
But those calendars, I mean, that's how we got to somebody with a calendar at the end of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I mean, if you saw the calendar, they'd be like, are you seriously trying to sell calendars? I don't know. I think that there's still people that might want fucking.
It had to have been a moneymaker.
We used to walk over to calendars and look at, what is it? And look up at them. That's okay.
There's a famous Sex and the City episode about this where she goes out to, I want to say it's Staten Island, to judge this like firefighter stripping like Chippendales thing, and it's like there's a sort of local politician there that she ends up dating, and it's all very like they're making this calendar. It's taken very seriously. This goes to show you how much time has changed in like just a couple decades. Where it's like this would be considered like a very cool thing for whatever single women in their 30s to be doing in New York, and now we're like, guys, remember the dark ages of cop and firefighter calendars? What was that about? Anyway,
I was never asked. Don't look at me. I was never asked to be in a calendar.
I was going to ask. I didn't want to put you on the spot.
I would have done one. I would have done. You know what? I might do one of you from this year from the podcast.
Oh my god.
Okay, let's talk rock. Grant, let's talk rock.
Let's talk rock.
Let's talk rock. Hold on one second. I have to take this toy from my dog that she's destroying.
Oh, let's see your dog. I brought my dog in here one time.
Oh yeah.
Dumped all over.
Beat all over the floor.
Man, horrible, man. I was going to bring it to you.
Cute dog.
It's awful.
Adorable dog.
Stitch. Yeah, we're trying to keep her busy.
I will give you a view of my dogs, but first I'm moving this. There's 3 dogs in this house right now. Let me see. How can I? Okay.
Gail, you have a picture of your dog?
Luna. Here's.
Yeah. Let me see.
There's the dog hour. Yeah, let's go.
Dog. That's Bill.
Oh. What kind of dog is he?
And then That is Lucinda.
Okay, Bill's out.
I can't. Bill is out. And then here's
so Lucinda's
Luna.
out, too.
She's under the table. Where is she? There you go.
Oh,
What a sweet.
she's beautiful.
And she's my mom's dog, and she's the troublemaker. I'm like sitting here watching her slowly demolish this tennis ball, and I think she's spitting all the pieces out, but I don't particularly feel like going to the emergency vet later today. Like, I have some other stuff I'd like to do. So, yeah.
There you go.
And a very
He's
cute.
beautiful.
He is.
And he's a
Wow.
stray.
Gear.
He was a
Yeah,
stray.
he was a stray.
All of mine are rescues.
Fortunately, he was a Dodger fan when we picked him up.
Oh,
He showed up with that jersey.
Showed up with that jersey on.
What kind of dog is that? Is that a long-haired?
It's a mix. It's a terrier mix. His
Yeah, I
mother,
was going to say he looks like he's got some terrier in him.
Yeah.
Oh,
his mother was a
they're
puta.
just the best.
You know,
His mother was a what? Sorry?
she was out there a little bit.
She was out there. She was a whore. She was playing the streets.
Listen, take
That
it
would
easy
get
for
him.
those mothers who were whores.
She was a woman of the night.
She
was
loved
a-
She loved the evening. My mom too. My mom.
She,
My grandmother said she had itchy feet. I don't think that's a
You know,
diagnosis.
I just, what a place to be. One of these days, I'm going to go back to New York and not working on a case. I just saw an episode of 30-30 where they showed the athletes from the New York Mets. Keith Hernandez, Doc Gooden, Strawberry. Those guys used to party hard. Oh, yeah. And they talked about going, and it showed them going to all their nightclubs, and they had everything. They were top of the world, and all in New York, all
That's
the
the
music.
thing about New York. I think that makes it so special and such as a sort of setting for whoever you are. There's like something crazy to be offered to you by New York City, because it's like every world, music, art, like acting, of course, like film and TV,
Broadway.
sports, business, right? Exactly.
Everything.
Theater, and everything is happening on top of itself in all of those worlds all the time. So there's this, and it's such a small place geographically. So there's this way in which whatever your story is, like, it's going to be intersecting, like however small and subcultural your world is and the things you're into, it's going to intersect with just naturally with some people from these other worlds. And like, that's the magic of the city, is that, music and sports and all these things can collide and do.
It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. How did you decide to use those? Is it 10 years or 9 years? For
10 years.
book?
It's like a decade.
Yeah. How did you decide to pick that decade of?
Well, I mean, you sort of, when you're trying to make a story out of a bunch of lived experience that feels kind of amorphous, it helps to kind of like take a step back and be like, what is the structure here? Really, if I was asked, you sort of pretend to be interviewing yourself almost. Like if I was trying to tell this story, where would I start? What would I say the beginning is? And if I was trying to tell this story, what would I say the ending is? And that was kind of helped along. So that created this sort of 10-year block, but it was helped along a bit by the day that I had the idea for the book. I was at Madison Square Garden, and I had seen the Strokes play a couple of nights before, and I was there to see LCD Sound System play, and they had like sold out all these dates. And for me, there's this sort of famous for me moment of being at LCD Sound System and having seen the Strokes a few nights before, and then looking over, I was on the floor at Madison Square Garden, LCD Sound System's final show, allegedly at the time, and over to my right was Susan Sarandon. And I'm like a massive Susan Sarandon fan. And I was obsessed with the fact that she was there. And like, look, there were like lots of cool, famous people at that point around all these bands that I had known since I was young. Like I moved to New York when I was 21, right after college. And I knew all these kids in these bands that I ended up writing about, but they felt like like not Guns N' Roses-y rock stars, not like, Nirvana-y rock stars. They were like people we knew in bands, not people other people knew, and certainly not people Susan Sarandon would know about. Like, what is happening? Like, it just seemed crazy that there would be it seemed like things from two different worlds. And so those two shows, I was like, oh, right. Like what probably was obvious to many other people for sure at that point, but had not been obvious to me, was that there had been a kind of time capsule that those 10 years marked. Like the beginning, the 9/11, the pre and post 9/11 realities for these bands who all started before then, sort of in one way or another, their reaction creatively to that event in New York and the way that shaped how they made music, how they felt about each other, like what it felt like to be in New York during that time, as I'm sure you all know. And then an ending of it, and not an ending like, oh, these bands aren't cool anymore, but an ending in the sense of Susan Sarandon is at these shows. Like, it's not like me and my friends at some shitty bar on the Lower East Side anymore. And so that was kind of the beginning of thinking about how to make a story of that. And then, a quick 7 years later, I published the book. No problem. It's really fast. Yeah.
Michael Jackson performed at Madison Square Gardens the evening before, September 10th, 2011. And, things, man, it's a 20-year anniversary of that, and things did change. The idea that what this country has done for all the families and all the people and the survivors and all the firemen, like, neglected them. Listen, it's a very, very sad thing, man. If you go, even now, if you go by the Veterans Hospital, there's guys living on the streets outside of the Veterans Hospital. But to go back to that 9/11, you almost wish that no family member or anybody who lost anybody had a want for anything, emotionally,
totally,
or with the kids and everything. But we've been neglectful as a country. Does it come out in the music of it, do you think? Does it come out in...
I think... Well, it's funny because I'm actually writing about this right now because we're adapting the book into a scripted TV series. So, which reminds me to ask you for any hot tips about how to survive in Hollywood. I'm going to need some advice from you. But for real.
I got it. I got you.
Yeah, man.
Okay, cool. So wee'll get to that after we figure out who the Zodiac killer was and we take care of this 9/11 issue real quick. Then we'll get to advise me about my career. Okay, cool. No, I'm writing about, I think, this having to tease this element out for the purpose of developing scripted characters, I think it made the generation that sort of came of age, like young but not teenage people who are my age, basically, like early 20s or thereabouts, in college even, but having left the house, but you're not like a full adult yet. It made it imbued those people with a sense of dread and kind of tragedy lurking around every corner, which I guess means the same thing. But, that period of time that we're talking about, this era in every human being's life where music itself is getting in this really deep way, and your brain is having all these reactions to the stimulation of being alive and being out of your parents' house and trying to make your own way in the world and trying to understand the terms of that world that you're entering. Well, how does this world function and what are its rules? And to have that completely upended overnight in that way, and to have all of the adults around you panicking and feel like it creates this sort of, but you're still young, and you're sort of what happened? I talk about this a lot in the book, and a lot of the artists do, everyone just partied harder. It's not like anyone sat around wisely at bars being like, wow, I think this has really affected our generation. No, everyone is just more drugs, more drinking, more I was going out 5 nights a week, I'm going to go out 7 nights a week, So it's not conscious like that, but I think looking back, which is my job in this moment, it's about remembering how you just felt like, fuck, this world is even more confusing and unknowable than it was before, and I was barely getting a handle on the world as it was before. And then just one more thing on that, which is it's also happening at the same time as Napster, the beginning of file sharing, these obviously these crazy technological revolution things that changed all of our lives, as we were talking about before. It's the beginning of camera phones and all this. And we didn't have those. It's unimaginable. But 20 years ago, at that LCD Sound System show, I didn't have anything in my hand that there was still some of that, and that was 2011. But certainly in 2001, nobody had that. You weren't going to stroke shows at Mercury Lounge and record, it just wasn't, that was just not an option. It was all happening in what feels now like an incredibly preciously anonymous time. So it was kind of a mindfuck.
But in the preciously anonymous time, though, you only could be responsible for the things that you were seeing around you. You know, and now when you wake up and you spend a fucking half hour on your phone, you're worrying about all the other shit that has nothing to do with you.
Exactly.
And people are obsessed with things that have nothing to do with them and then neglect the things that have to do with them. I mean, it's a powerful thing that you think that, you know, you had nothing in your hand. We used to go to shows and I said, we told the dude we were going to meet right here by the F parking lot. And then this guy walks up and you're like, hey, he fucking found it. Not, you know, where is he? I've been texting him. Like, I mean, there was something fucking natural and innocent about seeing somebody on your way in and you're looking over your shoulder and all of a sudden he's like, oh, there he is right there. I mean, that's not here. That's not here now. It's not, I
really miss that. I do miss that a lot. And I was just, you know, totally, there was this sort of sense of wonder about even travel, you know, like, well, how am I going to meet this person? Well, we'll just have to, I'll call them at the hotel when they get there. So, I mean, it was just, and that would seem crazy. Like I'm laughing because I'm just imagining, what if you said to someone now, so I'll meet you in that parking lot. And that, I mean, it would seem like so creepy and insane. Like, just text me. But it felt more romantic is a cheesy word, but it's kind of a good word for it.
But also,
I think
if somebody's worrying about something and they have a tendency to worry less about their own business and worry more about someone else's life. You know, now you're seeing on Instagram or on probably Twitter, I think is more is become the more evil of them. But you know, things that would people say about other people that just fly in it's all approved because you can say all that stuff to people now that you never would. You never would say it to their face. You can say it to whatever. But I think that having, you know, a daughter who's 25 who went to an influencer's birthday party, and that guy Leo. I mean, this guy has a house out here, living a very lavish life. That motherfucker started doing me on TikTok. Like, he was doing impressions of me on TikTok. And he's blown up to the point where my own daughter went to his birthday party in the hills, and this dude's like popping bottles of champagne. And it's like, he started doing me, walking into a room and looking around, and I think he's moved on from me. But that's how this dude planted his seed, man. And like, he's got,
like an episode of the Twilight Zone.
Fucking completely. It's like a Beverly Hillbillies. He shot up and I came out. Hey, what time is it? But I mean, that's how you have, you know, like Cheech Marin today. I talked to him on the phone. I never thought about, hey, let me record this, you know, or we just talked on the phone. That's a guy that I love from the time I was a teenager. And you know, you call up, you're not saying, hey man, can you FaceTime me so I could take a screenshot of us? It's like, I would never do that, but it's everywhere.
Yeah,
it's
and
like
we are
sniper.
missing something.
We are missing something.
Yeah, doesn't feel you just felt more. I mean, it's such a cliche, but you didn't have to fight to feel present in your life in the same way.
Yeah.
And there were these unpleasant things that allegedly social media has solved, like, you know, longing, wanting to know, having a crush on someone and wanting to know what they're up to, and like, just having to live with that, as opposed to being like, I'm going to stalk them and all of their ex-girlfriends and boyfriends or whatever on Instagram, and in 5 minutes I'm going to know everything, like including where they were last night. And really, do you feel better after that? Like, it's not. I mean, anyway, there's all these impulses that these things have solved or attempted to kind of like address, that I think are, you know, there's like a pleasure in having those things unsolved. But you know what? I don't know. Now I really do sound like an old lady. So let's just stop right now.
I made you sound like an old lady. But when Tiger Woods was going through his infidelities, I, you know, was always on the spectrum of potentially being an adulterer. Yeah, we saw each other.
That's what I was going to say. Were you dating Tiger Woods?
I could have. I probably could have. But I was working out downstairs. We had a thing, and Anne, when I was married, my wife was coming down, and it's a pretty long thing of stairs. We had a little gym in the bottom, and I grabbed the DirecTV. I tried to change the channel, but the way the guy set the box up, I had to be at an angle. And she walked down just as the guy said, you know, if your husband locks his phone, I would be concerned about what he's hiding. And she walked in just and she's like, you know what? I want to see your phone. I said, I don't have my phone on me when I'm working out. Well, where is it? It's upstairs. I almost stomped over her climbing up those fucking stairs. Yes. And she goes, what's the code? I said, what is the code? Shit. But I mean, listen, I lived a bit of a double life, and there's nothing good about it. And I think that the double life now or triple life now becomes the filtered pictures, the perceived life, the restaurant, and the celebration of other things that aren't yours. And then your life is, you compare your life to somebody who you follow or somebody that's driving around with stacks of money or shoes or whatever. Like, it's comparative. Now you can compare yourself to somebody like this as opposed to going to school and seeing, you know, me the first day I bought Nikes years ago in 1976 for $40. My grandmother, you would have thought I asked my grandmother to buy me a house.
So true. It's also like the more that I'm showing off on social media, the less happy I am. Like, I notice a direct relation. Like, if the 5 people who are following me on Instagram notice that I'm posting a lot, you should, like, you know, check on me. There's I'm being dramatic on purpose, obviously, but I do think, and I notice this with my friends too, that the more you're showing, you're sort of like posturing and peacocking about how fabulous your life is, like, even if you don't realize you're doing it, like, it sounds like such an obvious thing to say, but then I just notice in real life, like, it might not even be that I'm showing super cool, like, it's not, I mean, there's, you know, it's just the impulse to kind of create an illusion that is a reaction, at least for me, to like feeling unhappy or uneasy, or just like when I'm kind of in my life, I forget to get on Instagram as much. And I'll be like, oh, I really need to, I've been hosting a podcast myself, and it's like, I'll be like, oh, I really need to put that episode up today so people know about it, you know, and it'll feel like the good kind of obligation, rather than like, well, I'm going to the farmer's market today, so I guess I'll put something up about that. And then after that, I'm going to go to, you know, Pilates, and I'll put something up about that. It's just this sort of fake life that I'm, you know, trying to pretend I have. So,
How did you get used to the criticism, Gil? Like, you weren't in the public eye like
I laugh at it.
But it's interesting to read, though, right?
Sure,
yeah,
I read it. I read it,
really
and I laugh at it. I don't take any of it, not one of it taken seriously at all, either pro or con. Some of them are a little more touching to me, the pro ones, but the con ones, you know, they wish I were dead. I should be dead instead of Richard. And,
those are mine.
You know,
no, but you know, Richard Ramirez has. I mean, this guy. How many people did he kill? 16.
Well, we had him for 14 down here, 2 up in San Francisco.
I got it right.
Yeah.
But
you really don't take that serious. I find that so impressive. Like, I just.
Has anybody done a Play Misty for you know Play Misty for Me, right? Do you know?
Yeah, that was Clint Eastwood.
I think Play Misty for Me with social media is a fucking great idea for
it is. It
a movie now.
I've got somebody now that I get a little more concerned with. Somebody wants to marry me. And I said, sorry, you know, I'm already married.
Take it.
Those are George also.
And, you know, so I just don't. I explained to George at one time, I'm 71 years old. I've had a great life. Things are good. Now I'm on the down slope. And I'm just having the time of my life right now. And what are you going to tell me that I haven't encountered either through combat when I was in the Army in Vietnam or out on the streets? Nothing you say is going to bother me.
Is that called fishing? Is somebody just looking for a reaction? Are they being meaner than they normally would be because they're just trying to get blocked? Or remember when people were trying to get blocked, there was a big deal to get blocked.
Well, and I mean, social media, like, we know, not to get all eggheady, but like we know all this from all the leaked papers that are coming out of Facebook. I mean, the algorithm requires reaction, and the stronger the reaction, the more valuable the like. And that's just it's really just capitalism, which is, you know, which is fine. I mean, this isn't a sort of indictment of capitalism necessarily, but it's like, there's a sense of the purity of it, which is like the more upset you can, the easiest way to get a reaction out of someone is to make them upset, not to make them happy. Like biochemically, happiness is not as strong a cell, and you have 3 seconds to get someone's attention on these social platforms. So in that way, it's not, I think it's even, the sort of origin of it is even before the psychology of are people consciously trying to be mean or not, and more just that the world of social media itself requires like the fastest, most brutal, most hardcore, hardwired provocation game out there in order to like live and succeed. So it's really that. It's like it's in your best interest to be as outrageous as possible, and that's, I mean, obviously that's a recipe for disaster. Then it's like,
that young lady.
What can I say?
That young lady testified on Congress last week, a few days. I don't think that most of America really understood what she was trying to say, and about what she was talking about the idea that Facebook is in every part of your life. Like, it's not. Yep. It's even what the government thought they controlled is not what it is, which is why you and I could be out there talking about getting a barbecue, and 2 days later on your Facebook, stuff will show up about get a barbecue, they're for sale, or get this and that. I mean, that's different than sitting around with a newspaper and saying, oh, wow, this lawnmower's over here. Oh, shit, I have to go check that out and see that. Yeah, I was thinking, all right. And they're telling you, they're forming you, however you are, however I am, in our privacy of our home. Everybody wants to be a leader, but then they also want to be led. And I think that's part of it to a lot of people who, unfortunately, I think most of them spend, I think, a lot of time alone. And I think that's why I think social is such a big part of their lives.
Yeah, because we've been, we started out talking about, we're living through these screens. This is what we're doing all day. And that creates this sense of alienation too, and so you dig deeper into the sort of source of that alienation, which is a bit of a perverse thing to do. But yeah, I mean, it's very, we're all in it, and it's, I mean, we're not getting rid of it, so we just have to figure out how to handle it better, I guess.
We're talking to you on a screen.
Yeah, no, I know. I would go see Elton John. I grew up listening to Elton John, and Elton John tells a story in there that him and Bernie Taupin never wrote a song in the same room. How he would be in one room, and then Elton would be in the piano room, and then when they brought the lyrics to your song, their first hit thing, and he read the lyrics on the paper, and he said to Bernie, things are never going to be the same, because he could see that your song was going to be like a his. Like, these lyrics are amazing. And they did it for the music. Do you think, and even like seeing Bruce Springsteen and Rosalia and all that stuff, do you think that in that time after 9/11, that did it still mean as much to a songwriter to write a song about something personal, or was it more a thing where you might, like, if somebody has a niche song, people love it, then they like be happy, then they happy, like Pharrell, and then they turn on it, like, everybody likes it, and then they turn on it.
That's such a good question. I think, well, the first thing that occurs to me to say is that, like, there's a lot of different kinds of artists, right? Like, some artists write very personal songs and always do, and so they're not really like mirrors of the time in the same way that other artists are. Like, so there's sort of the super personal songwriter types. But the other thing that occurs to me to say is that I think that the best art, whether you're talking about music or any kind of art, is both universal in the sense that it is timeless, like it's evergreen. It reflects these like big themes about being human, but that it also comes at the right moment when it's exactly what the world or whatever community is responding to it needs, but doesn't know they need. Like, I definitely lived through that in Meet Me in the Bathroom. Is, the bands in New York in the early 2000s that I covered in that book were never supposed to be famous. Like, rock and roll was dead, and we were going to do dance music now, and leather jackets were like so passé, and it just seemed very uncouth to like make this kind of preening, sexy music. It was like, we don't do that. That's like very last century. And then there's a terrorist attack, and everyone's feeling incredibly vulnerable and emotional and pulling together and loving, feeling connected to New York and to the legacy of CBGBs that you were talking about before and all that stuff. And all of a sudden it's like all these bands that were making this music that basically they were being told was not commercial on any level and very dated became immediately current, you know. It's like really wild. So having witnessed that happening, I think that's part of the alchemy of what you can't predict with any art, right? Like, is it going to hit in the right moment? Is it going to be, you know, I mean, Elton John has written, I can literally think of like 10 songs that he's done this with, but where it just feels like his relationship with Diana and how he had how his art and his sense of time, of the time he was living through, merged to create this sort of moment that people are feeling what you're feeling and it all comes together. And that's like, that's what you can't predict. That's what makes it basically like gambling. You know, it's like a business of hedge fund management or something.
Yeah. I don't even think even rock people can sometimes believe their good fortune, you know? First of all, I've known enough musicians to know, I don't know how they make it out of even the garage getting along. I mean, there's the ego involved musically is much more than egos involved comedically. If you have four.
You think? Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Lizzy was telling me beforehand she had something come up for this afternoon, so I want to be respectful of your time as well.
Yeah, I have to go soon, but I feel like we're just getting started.
I think we are just getting started.
You know,
we've been talking for a little over an hour.
Man, I don't believe that.
Flies by.
Okay, let's get to some.
She's good.
Yeah, she's good.
She's just fascinating.
No, we're just getting to the important stuff about like the meaning of life, you guys. We're gonna have to do a round 2 or something.
But you know,
we'll figure out a way to.
But people follow bands and find the meaning of their life. Like they stay connected to the band, and they find their. Listen, the guy Dave Wilcox in 1978 had brought Born to Run. He was like a year younger than us. To the locker room, he was playing an 8-track. We're like, get that fucking bullshit out of here. And he goes, the boss. We're like, what? That's the boss. And 3 years later, I'm at the sports arena the last night of an 11-night run. We're sitting at the back, and I became a fan for life. Like I met him, talked to him, love him, still do. And it's powerful, man. What impression a dude can make on you the first time you see him. And that's music. Like you got a fan for life.
You know, there's one singer right now that is not oldie, that's very contemporary today. And I just told my wife this morning, you know, I wouldn't recognize her. I wouldn't know who she was if I just saw her on TV if they didn't mention her name. And now I can't think of her. She just released a brand new song.
Olivia Rodrigo.
No. She's
Adele?
Adele.
Adele.
Beautiful. I've loved every song I've heard her sing. Very touching to me, very emotional. Beautiful voice. But I wouldn't know her. I like her music. I wouldn't know who she was. And then this one that
you wouldn't know her, like if you saw her on the street, you mean?
Yeah.
Or you don't.
Guess who's in the living room?
There's not a persona that you're invested in.
Yeah, just her sound.
That's interesting too, isn't it? I think that's also an interesting fact, man.
I love her music. The one today, now attorneys are saying that it's going to lead to more divorces because it's helping ladies that are afraid to take that step to get a divorce. This new release is about her divorce.
Oh,
yeah.
And they expect to get more business because of it. It's empowering women.
And divorce
That's
attorneys.
how big she is.
Listen, that's a powerful, that's some writing right there. I probably wouldn't hear it, but I think I'm going to have to listen to it.
Oh, yeah. Check it out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I feel
we didn't even talk about the book.
I'm sorry.
We didn't even get there. You should come back sometime. I wouldn't
come back again.
I would love
We'd love to have you on. Let us know if you're ever out in LA too.
We got to follow up on the Zodiac, and we got to follow up on how many divorces.
We got to follow up on your book.
Hey, we can talk about green chili from Hatch, New Mexico.
I think she thinks we're horrible at this.
Yes.
Are you kidding me? No.
I think that you're the one that's keeping me down. We'll take care of this.
You mentioned the magic word, which is Hatch green chili. I would literally listen to a podcast that is only about green chili and how to properly prepare it and grow it and eat it. So I'm in.
I just roasted 50 pounds of green chili from my house.
And green is different than red. So we're going to send you some.
Okay.
We can get it free in front of the door.
And we're gonna send you some of my tacos
And
too.
roasting your own chili is hardcore. You are a hardcore
Roasting
Dutchman.
your-
That's impressive.
There you go.
So,
My grandmother used to
thank you
roast
guys.
it. Thank you
Thanks
very
so much
much.
for coming out, Lizzy.
It was a
This
real
great.
pleasure,
Such
Lizzy.
a pleasure to meet you both. And really, thanks so much. I'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye.
Man, we didn't even talk about.
I know, we can keep going. I mean, we're still on here. We obviously wouldn't make sense to hit the book now, but we should.
Man, how
have
come
her
we didn't
back
talk about the
sometime.
book?
That was
I think
I don't know.
It's different shit, huh?
It was
Was it
just
boring?
fascinating. No, it was fascinating talking about everything else.
Yeah.
She's really down to earth, good lady.
And she's smart.
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
She was using words that I have to look.
words.
I have to play this back just to hear the words again.
No, yeah. I think we found a little compadre there.
Yeah, she's great. I got to check the book out too. I guess.
right, what else?
I'll do the written book because.
I didn't get to flex on all the people I know.
Yeah, you brought the guitar today.
With the guitar, we're gonna bring that out.
What are you?
What are we gonna do?
Working with here.
I'm working with the fucking Sana.
I use that every day also.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I use it on my culo. Oh, God. Up and at 'em. That's the next one for suppositories. Up and at 'em. What do you want to do, Grant? Listen to some.
Do some voicemails?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna just pull some up here.
We don't need these, do we?
You'll need the headphones on for voicemail. That thing reach? All right. And we had a little bit of
More sucias out there?
follow up from one of the friends of the podcast.
Hey,
I'm gonna grab her voicemail, but I know Gil, you recently connected.
you think it's hard to get rid of putas that just hang around?
Is it hard to get rid of them?
Yeah. I think it's like I said on Saturday. I said, you ever have somebody that you're dating and finally they meet someone else? I said, I never owned a boat, but it's got to be like what fucking selling your boat is like when somebody doesn't rely on you anymore.
That's it.
Pay your own light bill, whore.
All right. So this is a voicemail from one of the friends of the show, the Puta in training. Here we go.
My daughter?
Aaron, do you have to switch the feed or anything? I'm playing it on mine.
That's when white dudes fuck up. They're like, Aaron, do you have to switch the feed? Us, we'd be like, hey, puto, I can't hear nothing.
That's right.
How's your feed? How's your feed?
I got it turned on. Let's try it again. I'll open it one more time.
Come on, man. Don't make us doubt you.
If you haven't doubted me already,
Okay, Gil, who wins
I'll keep messing with this. Yeah.
Dodgers and the Braves?
Dodgers. We're going to come back. We're going to take 3 here. Dodgers can't beat us here at home.
Want to go to the game?
Let's go.
Okay.
When's the next game? The last one was what, last night?
I won't be here. I'm leaving right after the show, going to Burbank Airport, going to Las Vegas. Reunion with some guys that used to fly top secret missions. At that time, they were top secret, cross enemy lines. Some guys with Green Beret. So it's a little reunion.
Oh, fucking hey, man. Where you guys staying? Where you guys going?
They're hosting it at the Orleans Hotel.
Is Santana in town this week?
I don't know.
Let me see if I can get you guys some tickets to go see him, man. Grant, what the fuck, eh?
I don't know, man. I was working a minute ago.
Come on, dude. What the
I'm working it.
your
I'm
shit
working it.
sucking? Fuck it, man. I think if this was fucking Bill Baum, it would be working. No, Bill Burr. How's Bill Burr doing, man? Good?
Yeah, he's doing good. He just, I think, performed in Atlanta the same night as one of the Dodger games.
Oh, yeah. Bill Burr's a shit, man. It's awesome, dude. There's some good comedians, man. Not like me, all fucking washed up. Fuck out there. Doctor Rosao, nalgas out fucking topestosos.
All pestosos. Man,
We're going to get Fernando Valenzuela in here one day. I'll bring that motherfucker a handcuff.
there you go.
Let's see if we can get him. He's tough to get because he doesn't, apparently.
He doesn't like to speak in English.
I don't know, man. What?
I can play it out of my speakers, but it's not coming through the headphones.
Aaron?
You guys aren't hearing it, right?
No, not at all.
Aaron, can you help me
Aaron.
troubleshoot? Oh,
You are aware the Cardinals are out of the.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was cold. My hair's messed up.
Hey,
there we go.
I said, you are aware of the fucking Cardinals. pitchers and catchers report. Pitchers and catchers report in 200 days.
Yeah, didn't they fire the manager after like a pretty great season or something?
Yes, it's ridiculous.
That's all right.
You know, I got an old partner.
Because it's win now or fuck you. But it wasn't used to win now. You let a guy do his job.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
right.
come on, man. Nobody just goes in there and wins. And then if they do, the guy maybe wins a year or two, and then they fucking fire him. It's like nobody gets a chance to.
Coach Orgeron, who they didn't bring on for USC, they let him go.
And now look.
He went back there, got a championship, and it's only been 2 years, and now they're dumping him.
How about that shit?
Hey, bring him back over here.
How about that?
Yeah.
Nobody has any time of, even if you lose 1 or 2 games, man, they're already, all these shows that are on all week, they have to have something to talk about. And let it be the demise of a fucking coach that is not even on the fucking chopping block, or a quarterback that's a rookie. Rookies, man, back in the day, if you had a rookie quarterback or a pitcher, somebody, they stayed back there for 2 or 3 years before they see the light of day. And now, even teams that are bad, maybe Urban Meyer's team, they go that young quarterback, they say they're going to fuck that guy up. RG3 they fucked up because they tried to bring him along too fast. He's out of the game.
The Raiders just won their last game.
They won in the Mile High. Yeah.
Yeah, and matter of fact, the guy that's picking me up at the airport tonight, he's an old Vegas Metro cop, good friend of mine. And
what time is your flight?
7:45 out of Burbank.
All right. Jet Suite X or no? Jet Suite X?
What's Suite X?
Jet Suite X? You never fly Jet Suite X?
Isn't that when you take like a private jet? But it's like, you get it for a good rate?
Jet Suite X is the equivalent of taking a private plane with about 15 other pestosos and you land in a private airport in Vegas. And if you're running late, they'll wait for you.
Wow.
You don't have to go 2 hours ahead of time.
That's dope.
That probably costs a chingo of money.
No, it's not. It doesn't cost a chingo of money. What are you flying? Panocha Air?
May as well be. They haven't been on.
Hey, what about when you used to fly? You could fucking throw Pablo with a flight attendant.
That would have been nice. I tried to go some other airline.
You could just show up with your weenie out, sir. Your cock is out, is it?
Well, before we get into too much trouble, you guys want a voicemail?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Hey, George. It's your niece. You call me PIT. Hi, Theo Gill. Hey, Grant. Grant, you're like my cute primo that I have a hardcore crush on, but I feel really guilty about.
Shout out.
Another
one. You guys. You
Shout
guys
out
are awesome.
Matt.
Keep doing what you're doing.
She wants to fuck everybody.
I had to call because of the segment with the shaving of Gil's pubes for his procedure. Oh my God, George. How many questions did you have to ask? How long did you have to spend on exactly who was holding his nuts and how many nurses and did they use cream? How many times did you ask did they use cream? I think that you asked like 4 or 5 times.
She's protective of it.
It was amazing. I wish you could have seen my face that whole
I'm protective of your huevos, and I'm the bad person.
The whole 2 hours I was just like, wow, my jaw was just open. I couldn't believe it. That was amazing. Please keep doing that. Thank you, Grant, for not editing that or cutting off George.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Also,
appreciate it.
How could it?
The part where Gil asked you if you had ever played Steven's Steakhouse, and you were like, are you serious? Do you know who I am, George Lopez? I've never laughed harder.
I don't remember any of these things.
Don't you realize who this Steven's Steakhouse owner is? He's from Sicily. He had Frank Sinatra play his steakhouse. You haven't put it together yet, bro?
Frank Sinatra played over this.
Well, I love you guys.
Get the fuck out of here.
I'm telling you.
Doing.
That's live. How old was he? That's
only about 14.
No, are you serious? Frank Sinatra played Steven. Get the fuck out of here.
Yes, matter of fact, the owner told me that the only time he had more people in Steven's Steakhouse
was when I was there.
The biggest night he ever had was with Frank Sinatra till my retirement dinner. At my retirement dinner, we put more people. He even had people eating in the dinner side for free. Then just come over and join the party when you're done.
That's
pretty amazing, man. You know what? That's congratulations, man. You deserve that. But Frank Sinatra at Steven's Steakhouse.
Yes.
Is there a picture of him over there?
Yeah.
That's live.
Yes. Just as you walk in the door, there's a picture of him right there.
How did he do that?
I don't know. That was
He knew
his
him
dad.
as a personal friend?
Well, his dad is the one that hired him, not Jimmy. It was Jimmy's dad that hired him.
They still have broken leg of lamb over there? Okay, what else?
All right, next up.
Don Rickles had the best joke. He said, Frank Sinatra saved my life one time. I was getting my ass kicked in the alley, and Frank Sinatra walked up and goes, "That's enough."
All right, next one.
Hey, well, I want to before we go to the next one, I want to reach out and say thank you to PIP, my niece, because she was protective of my huevos, and that's always good. Anybody's going to be protective of my huevos. She was sticking up for me. That was good. It was funny, but it was good.
No, but she was concerned how many times, I was imagining them in my mind. 200. All right, anyways.
All right, here we go.
Have you met her yet? And she's going to come in here, I think, for the anniversary show.
Well, we can. I've been talking to her.
I think we had some vatos in here, some like a little stage out here, do a little Chippendales. Get some vatos, some old dudes from Chippendales, like dudes that danced in that time.
Yeah.
Who were there when Scott was investigating the chip like 30 years ago.
And get Scott to come in here and arrest him at the end.
Scott would do it.
What up, boys? This is Ben from North Carolina. Just listened to the last podcast. Y'all answered my question. And fucking George Lopez called me a puto. I'm putting that on my LinkedIn page, straight up. Anyway, I got a one-part question this time for both of you. You say you're from
I love it.
Los Angeles back in the the 70s and 80s. Did y'all ever go to the Rainbow Bar and Grill? Like the big-time celebrity hub? And also, Gil, were there any crimes that you had to investigate at the Rainbow Bar and Grill? Thanks, y'all, man. You made my fucking week.
That's a good question, Puto. But you know what? The Rainbow, that's a good question. Our girl was on talking about New York. New York has a lot of great places, but the Rainbow Bar and Grill on Sunset is still open. You drive back there, you can sit out there. Amazing pizza, amazing rock stories, family owned. I might have to go down there.
Mario, the owner, got to know Mario. No, we've never had. I've never had to investigate anything out of there. Nothing major, no murders or anything like that. Great stories. He talked about how he came out here. He was a Chicago cop. He worked for a judge back then.
Is that dude still alive?
No, he died probably about 3 years ago.
Yeah, he did.
At least, and his wife died before him. He had opened up another one in Vegas, and he had the Rainbow and the Roxy right next door. He had both places. He was a fascinating guy.
What's interesting, man, is I think there might be a book on the Rainbow, but the Roxy, like the fucking Doors played the Roxy. Everybody played the Roxy. The whiskey too. Yeah. Like Wolf Van Halen just played there.
I got to go up in their private room in the Roxy.
I got
to go up there.
It's crazy, man. Robin Williams did a special at the Roxy.
Oh, really?
And what's funny is that he went into the audience because it's small, and you can see the stars of that time, like, the Taxi people and different actors and actresses in their prime at that special, because he got off the stage and went into the audience and he was talking to people, and there they all were. So the Rainbow and the Roxy, you know what? There hasn't been really a lot of crime around over there that you would hear of, famous murders. I mean, wasn't Salminio over in some apartment out there in West LA? And but
that was out of West Hollywood.
West Hollywood. You ever go to the Starwood?
No.
The Starwood was on Crescent Heights in Santa Monica. It's a Russian restaurant right now. And that place, the Starwood, anybody look it up, was where Van Halen started. A lot of the Doors played the Starwood. A lot of the early bands in the 70s. And then if it was still there, what would it be? It'd be like the Roxy and the Rainbow. And the whiskey are still there, thank God. But yeah, that's historical.
My old partner in Homicide Bureau, Gil Parra, may he rest in peace right now.
So you guys were the Gills?
We were the Gills, and he was working patrol out there. He was working a foot beat, and it started raining. And the owner of the Rainbow, Mario, came out and said, "What the fuck you doing out here?" He said, "That's man, awesome. You fucking cops out here in L.A. are stupid. Come on in." Took him in, fed him, and Gil went to pay. What the fuck you? Chicago cops don't pay for shit. I don't need your money right now. Just make it easy on yourself. And then him and Gil became good friends over the years, and that's how I got into Mario, going over there with Gil and meeting him. Matter of fact, Gil's boy worked there for a while, just helping out around the place. And I've sat back in the back room when the restaurant was packed, back in the kitchen, had pizza with Mario back there.
The pizza's great. So here's my idea. I just thought of it. So the year anniversary of this podcast, which if we make it, my fucking back is killed. No. With all our huevos, Manscaped and everything, full. Peach fall. Let's go. That we have our anniversary show with an audience at Steven's Steakhouse. Aaron, you have to wear what you're wearing right now.
In the Cardinals gear.
What do you think? That guy will go for it?
Yeah. We'll
bring some pestosas in there. We'll bring some of the people that the PIT in there. We'll bring some of the people from the year.
That'd be awesome.
Wouldn't it be great? Have a band play.
Yeah.
Hit them up and see. Right?
Where is Stevens?
Right at the 5 and 710. City of Commerce.
Very cool.
You take
where the fucking bullet meets the stone.
If you go south 5 freeway, you get off on Eastern, and the off ramp puts you right there at Steven's Steakhouse.
All right, there you go. That'll be what? Was it February, March?
So we talking about 100 people. Less
I don't
than
know
that.
how big is it.
We put for my thing. We had over 450 people there.
Okay, then we'll have 449. Cause I don't want to break your record.
Yeah.
He set up for that night. He actually put tables up on the stage. I mean,
who spoke at your? Do you have a videotape of it?
No, I have a videotape that Jimmy made for the night that he did. It was really it's funny. And did you retire or did somebody retire? I mean, what's the thing with that? In the FBI, I think Scott said. I think I might have saw a thing on Scott that. Didn't Scott say 57 you were done?
Yeah, 57, and then you can possibly file for an extension.
Okay, there is no mandatory. There used to be about 5 years before, about 4 years before I retired. It was mandatory age 60 for everybody in law enforcement in California. But they got the law changed, and so there is no mandatory retirement now.
Is it different? Is it different to, let's say, if somebody asks you to retire? Is it different than somebody just deciding to retire? I think so.
Well, if they're asking you to retire, that's because they're saying if you don't, you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
You know, they can't force you into retirement.
Where everybody resigns now.
Yeah.
Coach Gruden resigned, which he would have been fired.
Yes, you get your choice. Resign and live up.
And that's also the age of, I think, a bit of, if not political correctness, just saving face of somebody who had a career. Because if you said you could be, I mean, I could have been fired from in any of my jobs, but it didn't have you just didn't get a letter of recommendation from that place, but you could pick up in other places. But now, if everything's visual and somebody gets fired, they resign and they could go on and get another job. But if you said this motherfucker resigned, he got fired for emails that were inflammatory to race, inflammatory to women, and inflammatory to people who were homosexual, that dude would never work. But in resignation, he probably still shouldn't work. But in 5 years, I mean, there's people out there that have taken people's lives that are working.
Yeah, I went out and I told the sheriff I'm going out because I'm at the top of my game. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. It's time. You know, I'm just not a yes man. I can't do the things that the department would like me to do. And I just wouldn't go along with it.
Okay, I think that, and that's also like a good thing. Like if you go in a place and there's, I mean, to be a superhero, be a crime fighter, to be somebody that's out of the box, you have to be able to think differently. Like if somebody says, hey, Rockford Files, motherfucker lived on the beach, the first lethal weapon. Like those guys they're unusual people. And if you try to make everybody the same, which I think we live in a society now where nobody wants to upset anybody, people get upset, and you want people to live the same, people live different, and people look different, and motherfuckers are making assessments on the way that people look or the way that people behave or where the person with the eyes thinks that person belongs, whether I belong here or you belong here. That's the beginning of what all this bullshit that's happening. All the Karens and all the fucking people that fucking are worried about whether somebody has a permit to fucking have a barbecue at a park, and then you're just sending police officers to do that.
Sure.
They don't do that shit.
People are looking for any excuse to rat on anybody to do anything they want because they're just miserable and not happy themselves.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you know, but you know, like having our girl on, man, like people are living beyond, they're living in their phones and they're living beyond their fucking means. And they're not fucking cool and they're not hip. And if you have to filter your fucking picture, you're not what you think you are. And everybody, I've done it. I filter my fucking picture. I filter yours too, cabrón. I put it out there. I said, but we need a little fucking filter. Not Grant.
We can touch this.
Not Grant. That motherfucker, even though, you know.
He's probably chulo. Look at him.
Cabrón.
You know, and my retirement, I actually, when you go, you know, somebody will get up there and pose a toast to your longevity. You did it. Well, I had glasses made up, shot glasses. And it said, Gil Carrillo had 187, you know, my day begins when yours ends. Gil, 187.
Oh, shit.
And so I told Jimmy, when I get up there to speak, I want you people to have trays ready with shot glasses filled with tequila.
With 450 tequila shots.
What kind of tequila?
We were short. We only had 400 glasses. Somebody didn't get any.
What kind of tequila was it?
I don't know. I didn't ask. I didn't care.
Cabrón.
And so I just said, and just pour them out there. And so I said, okay, now, you know, you got these glasses for those who drink. I said, I just want to propose a toast to you. For those of you who don't know, I haven't had a drink in a year. I said, I didn't get in trouble. I didn't do anything stupid. I just wanted to stop. You know, maybe too much. I said, so the only reason I'm here is because of all of you. So this toast is for you. And if the truth be told, the undersheriff at that time, every time a cop would get busted for drunk driving, you know, because they do get busted, he'd put out a teletype to everybody. Well, so-and-so embarrassed us this week, went ahead and got arrested for drunk driving. And it just used to eat me up, you know. So I said, and the sheriff was sitting right in front. I said, so the truth be known, I didn't want to give Larry Waldy a shot at catching me dirty. Cheers. You know, and so I drank my shot. It just wasn't.
And what did Larry say to you? Hey, puto,
he wasn't there.
Spot.
He wasn't there. He wasn't there. His boss was there, but Larry would have laughed.
But everybody was laughing. Yeah,
Larry would have laughed.
But why did Larry do? Why did Larry feel he had to do that? Because of authority? Like he was to tell the other guys.
He was at that time. He was number 2 in command, so he thought that it was warning to everybody else. Hey, don't drink, don't drive. You're going to get caught. And you're going to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
So
named and shamed.
That's what he tried to do, you know, and I just didn't go along with it. And so I wasn't a yes man. So it was time for me to go.
You know what? That's how they could have stopped. Remember they used to put people's pictures in the paper? That's how they could have stopped puteada, all that stuff.
That's what they used to do.
They'd put whores out their pictures and be, hey, careful for these ladies. That probably business would have went up. But there was a vato out there that was a little like, you know, hello. And they put them out there. Theo, I saw your picture in that paper. What?
There were some small cities that started busting Johns and then putting their pictures out, saying they were arrested for that shit.
Oh,
not good.
You know, I remember the days of going to do stand-up and going down Hollywood Boulevard and seeing, and Sunset, to the Comedy Store, and seeing ladies of the night out there.
Sure.
Good times.
Those are the best times.
What sort of era?
And then the police would come. You see the police come and they'd all take off running in their heels. That was fun because they'd have that flashlight that they would put on them.
And they just click, 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 click.
I never ran faster in my life. All right. What else, Grant?
All right.
One more?
One more.
All right, so we're working on that. We're going to redo those Gil glasses again.
Yeah.
You have any of those glasses?
Hi, guys. Gil and George and everybody. I was actually calling in regard to the recent show you had regarding having your parents live with you, because I'm in such a dilemma. Honestly, my mom is doing really bad.
Wait a minute. Pause that. Listen, I don't even know what's going to be said, but the one I don't know if you could say Latinos, but I make fun of people being put in assisted living. It's a tough decision to make, but more people that are not Latinos do it. You know, I left my grandmother in her house, and they stole all her shit from her and all that stuff. But taking people in to a situation where it's not the best situation for them. All it is a roof over their head and somebody to change them and somebody to feed them. But the people in that house aren't fucking nurses, and they're not doctors, and they're at some point as a culture, instead of trying to, you know, people have insurance, I guess. I don't know who pays for all that stuff, but, you know, if you bring somebody into your house for them to just live until they die, you destroy the people that are taking care of that person while they pass and beyond that. I think that there's better ways to put people who need 24-hour care than in your living room or in the back room or emptying out another room. It's a tough thing because it's not neglect. It's just, are you getting the best care here than you would with some professionals? But also the mentality of having to take care of somebody changes the whole dynamic of the family, man.
I couldn't agree with you more. And every case is on an individual basis. Yeah. My mom, we used to take my mom to a daycare center. So it's like taking a child to a babysitter. And they had crafts, and my mom she'd look forward to going to it, take her in the morning, pick her up in the afternoon. Then all of a sudden, I noticed my mom was sad. So I asked the guy over there at the daycare center, hey, what's my mom? All of a sudden, she's sad. She's not going along with the program too much. And he says, well, it's time you get your sisters together so we can talk.
Ooh.
And I said, okay. So we go down there. He says, well, here's the problem. She had a friend here. Friend's name was Manuel. And her and Manuel, my mom used to come home with little crafts, Manuel to make stuff for her.
Oh, wow, man.
And Manuel, his family just moved him out to a full-time living center for them, not daycare anymore. He says, and I really think it may be time for your mom if she chooses to make the leap. And I said, I don't know. I said, but I'll talk to my mom and letting everybody know right now, if she wants to, she'll go. If she doesn't, we're not.
Okay.
That's simple. It's up to her. So
you know what? I appreciate that because a lot of times they'll be like, hey, Mom, I don't want to fucking go over there. Well, guess what? You're going.
Oh, no, that wasn't
I mean, you
it.
can't do that.
My mom, who was well into Alzheimer's now, I told him, Mom, you want to meet? You remember your friend Manuel? ¿Cuál Manuel, mijo? I said, Mom, come on, it's okay. Dad's been gone a long time. The Manuel that used to make you all the crafts. See, okay. And I said, Mom, you know, he moved out, and he's living out over at this full-time living center. How would you like to move over there with him, where he's at now? And she says, yeah, I think I'd like that. And then she goes, ay, mijo, pero ¿qué pasó si salgo embarazada, if she gets pregnant? And I said, Mom, as long as it's not another boy, because I'm the only boy in your that came out of you. I've got 6 sisters. It's another girl. I don't care. And as long as he's got money for your mijo. And so she says, pues vamos.
Wow, man.
And so she wanted to move in. Unfortunately, she wasn't there a full week before she had an episode. She had a bleed in her brain. We had to get her to the hospital. And
man.
So, and then she never went back to the place. And so it was a good move. She didn't suffer. This is what she wanted. She had everything there. We were constantly seeing
But, you know,
her.
you guys had respect for her, man. Like, you know, and she had her... I mean, you know, my grandmother didn't want to go to any of those things. And I took her one day, and she went in there, and I still remember the look on her face was like, Grandma, why don't you give it a chance? A chance at what? And just like, fuck, man.
Yeah, that was what she wanted. My mom was good. My sisters would cringe. My mom would say a couple of years before she got sick, you know, a few years before she got sick, my daughter was probably about 13, 14 years old, and my mom told her, hey, mija, has your mom told you about the birds and the bees yet? And you could tell me a lie because I know she hasn't. Your mom's not like that. But I'm going to tell you, I've had 6 daughters. I'm going to tell you the birds and the bees. Mija, don't you listen to those boys. They'll tell you everything. They'll tell you they love you. They'll promise you this. They'll give you little gifts. But all they want is that one thing, mija. They want that pussy willow.
Oh my God.
Keep your legs closed, mija. Don't fall for that. They only want one thing. Do you hear me, mija? Pussy Willow. Don't believe those boys.
Fucking Pussy Willow.
So now,
I think we found what to write on the shot glasses of the
there
animals.
you go. 2 years later, my mom, I go down her house. My wife's there. I said, "Hey, what's up with my mom?" Because my mom would always tell my wife first.
With my mom.
Yeah, I don't want to tell. I'm going to tell you this, but don't tell my mijo. But she knew she was going to tell me anyway.
Yeah.
So I said, "What's up with my mom?" She seemed nervous. She said, "Hi." She says she's going out on a date with a neighbor right up the street, and that neighbor is a widower. His daughters were friends with my sisters, and so they're going out on a date. I said, "Really?" She says, "Yeah, just a dinner." And I said, "So, Ma, ¿qué pasó? I understand you're going out to dinner." "Ay, mijo, yo no quería." No, I didn't want. But he's, "Mom, relax. It's good for you to go out. You got a life ahead of you. You go out, Mom." "Pero qué van a decir las otras?" I said, "Don't worry about las otras. I'll take care of the otras, my sisters." I said, "You just go out and have fun tonight, Mom. It's just a dinner. Nobody's saying anything." And my daughter looked up at her and says, "Grandma, but just remember, they only want one thing, Grandma."
Oh my God, that's awesome, man.
And my mom started laughing, turned beet red.
Oh my God. And
she went out with him one time, and then that was it. Never went out again. And she never ended up dating another man or anything. And it was, she could have. It didn't. I wanted her to be happy.
That I have that in my stand-up, but when my grandmother was getting older, they revert to like childlike behavior.
Yes.
And the caretaker said to me, "Benny's birthday's coming up, and I mean, we don't want to do this without asking you. We don't want to get her a stripper." And I said, "What, for her birthday?" I said, "Yeah, go ahead." So I went to the bank. My friend worked at the bank, and I told him I gave her 100 ones to Deborah, the nurse, and I said, "Okay, the guy's coming tonight. Let me know how it is tomorrow. I'll give you 100 ones, give them to my grandmother, and she could give them to the guy, whatever, dancing." So they took some pictures, and they sent them. And the next day, she said, "Oh, Benny's too much." And I said, "Oh, what did she do? Grab his dick or something?" She goes, "No, she gave him $3 and she kept 97. I had to fucking call the guy up, meet him, and give him fucking a couple.
That feels like the note we go out on.
There we go.
There.
Beautiful. God bless you, Grandma, wherever you are.
All right, thanks, guys.